Today I wanted to talk about my most anticipated new book releases for 2024. Obviously these release dates may change, the books may be pushed, there may be more books added, but these are the 40 books that I have so far that I would like to get my hands on, I would like to read. I'm very much anticipating. We are going to go month by month. Starting off in January, I think the latest release I have is in September, so we're going to cover 9 months of new releases. These are just my most anticipated, so these are ones that I may pre-order or request from the library. I do post monthly new book release videos at the start of every single month, but those cover all the ones that I am like a little bit interested in, that have sort of piqued my interest, whereas these are my 100% most anticipated, will be requesting from NetGalley if they come up at any point. So starting off in January, we have a book called The Breakup Tour. This one is about a musician who gets in touch with an old flame, I think. There's something about a singer-songwriter. The guy seems to manage a retirement home and the two get together. Obviously this is a romance book. I don't really read too many romances, but I do like books about famous people. But I don't like books about music. So you may be wondering why I put this on this list, but it's the famous people aspects and the fact that the woman is a rising star. This one's coming out on the 23rd of January. Then we have a sci-fi dystopian book called Womb City. This one is set in Botswana in the future. This seems to be about a wealthy woman who is married, she's famous, and she is expecting a baby. She seems to be doing really well for herself, except her husband is able to control her body. And this is such an interesting topic for me. Or to me. It says something about a hit and run here and finishing off the victim and burying the body. I'm really interested in this. It sounds quite horrific as well, so it's probably got some horror elements. And this cover is amazing. I love it. It's so creepy. This one's coming out on the 23rd of January as well. Then we have The Djinn Waits 100 Years or 100 Years. This is a fantasy novel. It's apparently very atmospheric. It's set in a haunted, ruined mansion by the sea, and there is a djinn haunting it. A girl and her father go to this mansion. I think they are trying to restore it to its former glory somewhat, and they're also kind of desperate, so they've shown up at this home after a devastating loss. They show up, find that it's kind of like frozen in time, find that it's haunted, and I think this is meant to be very kind of lyrical as well, and I don't always get on too well with lyrical books, but I really like the kind of different take on a haunted house story, and this seems kind of like gothic while also having South Asian mythology woven in there. So this one sounds really good. It's coming out on the 9th of January. I did have a book called Sanctuary of the Shadow on this new releases anticipated list. It's by Red Tower Books, who did published Fourth Wing, and it sounded quite good. So it says something about a circus being a wonder of amazement, or a place of wonder and amazement, something about being drawn to the darkness and stuff. So that all sounded really good, but now the average rating is only 3 stars, which is really freaking low. So I'm just gonna have a quick scroll through, see what people are saying. I was told this is about a circus, but it's not. Who approved this? Do not recommend. Yeah, so I'm gonna remove this from the list. I'm sorry for putting it in here, but that's going. I guess I'm kind of like curating my list as well at the same time. Coming out on the 30th of January, we have a new book by Kylie Reid. This is the author of Such a Fun Age, which I really, really enjoyed, and her newest book is Come and Get It. It's an interesting cover. I'm not sure I'm a fan of that, but it says here this one is set in 2017 at the University of Arkansas. Main character Millie is a senior resident assistant and wants to graduate, get a job and buy a house. It's an intimate portrait of desire, consumption and reckless abandon. It mentions something about professor as well, so I don't know if it's going to be like a student professor sort of situation. It's literary fiction, and like I said, I really enjoyed the author's previous book, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. The Tusks of Extinction. This one is about bringing back a long extinct species, I guess using DNA. I think it's set in Russia, and Moscow is bringing back the mammoth, like resurrecting it. But the thing is, the things that these scientists are resurrecting don't know how to be mammoths. They've got no community, no sort of knowledge being passed from generation to generation. So they pull someone in who's an elephant expert, and obviously it's not the same thing. So I think this is going to go horribly wrong. This seems to be some sort of like eco thriller, and it's actually a novella. It's only 192 pages. I really want to get my hands on it. It shouldn't take too long for me to read. The Fury by Alex Michaelides. please. This is a new thriller book by the author of The Silent Patient and The Maidens. I really enjoyed The Silent Patient. I didn't really like The Maidens all that much because the ending was awful, but this book is set on a Greek island, like a private one, and there's an ex-movie star and a murder. So I really, like I said, like books about famous people, really like some rich people drama, and if it's set on a private island, I assume there's a lot of rich people there. I do have an arc of this, so I'm hopefully going to be reading it soon. Maybe not by the end of the year, but we will see. Only If You're Lucky. This is a new book by Stacey Willingham. I've read 2 books by her, the only 2 books that she has released so far, and I've really enjoyed them. I've given them both 4 stars. I think maybe one had 3.5, and I'm looking forward to reading this one. So it's another thriller book, so I won't read the entire synopsis. It seems to be about a group of friends set in South Carolina, and one of those friends goes missing. So looking forward to reading this, of course. Voyage of the Damned. This seems to be a fantasy mystery sort of deal. It says here, for 1,000 years, Concordia has maintained peace between its provinces. To mark this incredible feat, the Emperor's ship embarks on a 12-day voyage to the sacred goddess's mountain. Aboard are the heirs of the 12 provinces, each graced with a unique and secret magic ability known as a blessing. Except one. Something, bodies piling higher. So is this like a ship thriller fantasy situation? It sounds really good. That must be why I added this, because I think it sounds incredible. And the average rating is 4.68, so I have high hopes for this. I'm going to see if I can get that on NetGalley, because it sounds really good. Faebound. This is by the author of The Final Strife. It's a fantasy book, and it's the start of a new trilogy. So this one is about Fae, obviously, because it's called Faebound. I don't typically love books about Fae. I think Sarah J Maas kind of overdid it for me by releasing 3 different series covering different kinds of Fae. I wonder if this author is going to do something a little bit different, add a different twist to it. I've not read The Final Strife yet, but I'm hoping to very soon in the new year. Probably not by the time this one comes out, to be honest, but I will try my best. This is about a woman who's, I think a woman, yes, a woman, who is a warrior in the Elven army, and her sister is trying to make a living as a diviner, so like a prophetess. The main character is exiled, and both sisters are forced into a terrifying wilderness beyond their borders. This one sounds so good, and then it talks about the Fae Court, which sounds less good, but I'm still excited for this one nonetheless. I really hope this one turns out to be a good book. TOA God. This is by Elizabeth May, who I haven't enjoyed books from in the past. I think I've read one book by her, or tried to, and I got so bored I had to put it down. But this one sounds really good. So it's about caging gods. It's a fantasy book. It says here that Galena and Sarah's mother grafted gods into their bones, bound to brutal deities and granted forbidden power no commoner has held in a millennia. The sisters have grown up to become living weapons, raised to overthrow an empire no matter the cost. This sounds so good. I love books about rebellion and secret powers and stuff, so that's why I've added this to the list. The Bullet Swallower. This one is something a little bit different. It's a historical Western magical realism kind of book. It follows a Mexican man who sets off towards Texas to save his family, and then he encounters a mysterious figure who comes to collect a cosmic debt, which has been generations in the making. So I think this is going to be some sort of like family generational thing as well, not necessarily following the family, but learning about what this guy's family did back in the day to make this mysterious figure come after him. It also says it's based loosely on the author's own great-grandfather. So that's really interesting. And I think it tackles like border politics, intergenerational trauma, all of that good stuff. Really looking forward to reading this one, actually. And again, this is quite a short book, so this wouldn't take too long to read in theory. So it could be one that I get my hands on quite soon when it comes out and then smash through it. It sounds really good. Into the Sunken City. This one is a YA fantasy, this time about pirates. It says here there's a city in Arizona which is sinking slowly. The main character's father has died in a diving accident, and she meets a drifter who offers her the score of a lifetime. I'm not really sure where the fantasy side comes into it, probably when they go out to sea to find whatever it is they have to find. I really enjoy books about pirates, and I think this one has a lot of promise, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. It does say it's also a retelling, but I don't know what it's a retelling of. Treasure Island. Apparently it's a retelling of Treasure Island, which I've never read. All I know about Treasure Island is actually what was covered in a school play from when I was 10. So I don't know loads about it, to be honest, but I'm looking forward to reading this one. No One Can Know by Kate Alice Marshall. I love Kate Alice Marshall's books. She's one of my all-time favourite authors. She's an auto-buy author at this point. This is another thriller by her. She released her debut adult thriller last year, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. So this one, again, is a thriller by her, as I've already said. So this one is about 3 sisters, 2 murders, and too many secrets to count. Something about a rundown house and her parents dying, main character's parents dying, not the author's. And apparently some people say that the main character did it. So there's lots of secrets here, some sibling drama, and I'm really looking forward to reading this one. This is probably my most anticipated release for January. The Invocations, I don't know how to pronounce that. This is a YA paranormal witchy book. It says here that the main character's sister was murdered by a serial killer and there's nothing that she can do about it. The main character feels really powerless, and then she meets the daughter of a billionaire who I assume gives her the ability to look into whatever it is she wants to look into. Except this daughter of the billionaire is cursed after she made a deal with a demon, and I love that. It's very supernatural. And then I think there's also a third girl as well, also judging by the cover and the synopsis, and I guess the 3 of them come together, have to stop a killer and have to help each other out. I think this sounds so good. I really want some more good witchy YA books, so that's why I've added this one. I think it sounds amazing. The last one that I have that is coming out in January, as you may have guessed, is House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J Maas. So this one, I don't really need to say anything about this one. It's a sequel to Crescent City. It's number 3 in the series. I don't know how many there are going to be, maybe like 4 or 5. And after the ending to the second book, which I won't spoil, I'm very nervous to see where this one goes. I have nothing else to say about it other than my husband has agreed to read through Sarah J Maas's books, bibliography, this year in 2024. I'm going to get him to do that starting in January. Not reading this series. We're going to start, I think, with ACOTAR and then do a video on it. So that's all I have to say about this book, which isn't really about this book. Moving on to February, we actually have fewer releases that I have listed as most anticipated. The first one being The Women by Kristen Hanna. I love her books. I've read, I think, like 4 or 5 of them at this point. She has released way more than that, but those are the only ones that I have read, and I really enjoy her historical fiction. So this is about America in the 1960s, which I believe is around the time of the Vietnam War, and I think it's about the nation being divided and the main character or characters kind of growing up in the country and how it's all affecting them. I really enjoy Kristen Hanna's writing. I think she can probably handle this topic very well, and I tried to request this on NetGalley and I was denied, which I find very rude, by the way, because I loved her previous books so much and I gave a couple of them 4 and 5 stars. I could have promoted it really well at the publisher, whoever the publisher is, but nevertheless, I'm going to pre-order this one because I'm really looking forward to it. A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faizal. I've been following this author since she was a book blogger back in the day, but I haven't actually read any of her books yet. So this is the start of a new series from her. She previously wrote We Hunt the Flame, which I haven't read, but I've heard kind of mixed things about, but it sounds quite good to me, and I do have it on my shelf, so I would like to read it at some point. This is the first book in a new duology about an orphan girl and her crew who got tangled in a heist with vampires. Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange. This is by the author of There, which I haven't read yet, and I don't know if I have to read that first before I read this one, because it does say that it's a follow-up, but it could just mean that he's released another book. It says here that Wandering Stars traces the legacies of the Sand Creek Massacre in 1864 and the Carlisle Indian Industrial School through to the shattering aftermath of Orville Redfeather's... Is that a spoiler? I'm going to bleep that bit out because I don't know if that was a spoiler or not. I'm going to read There, I think, before I read this one. But basically it's set, I think, in 2 timelines. It covers like massacres and school shootings and stuff, and I'm really interested in reading it. Fathomfolk. This one says that it's perfect for fans of Jade City and the Bone Shard Daughter. Obviously it's a fantasy book. I think this is adult, but it's labelled as YA and adult, so it's hard to tell. It says here something about sirens, sea witches, kelpies, water dragons. I think this sounds amazing. I haven't read many fantasy books recently with like that many different fantasy creatures in it, and it looks like here there's also a 2nd generation sea witch, so all of this coming together. Love the sound of it. I'm really looking forward to reading this one. A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. This one is about a shield maiden who has been blessed by the gods. It says here that Freya is bound in an unwanted marriage and she kind of wants to just get rid of her husband. There's something about a son called Bjorn, and I don't think it's her son. I don't know. It's confusing me. But basically, this is like Viking fantasy, and I really enjoy that. So I'm looking forward to giving this one a go. I've heard really good things about this author. I've not read anything by her. I am told that she's very good. So I'm looking forward to trying this one. Then in March, we have a few more books. The first one being The Truth of the Aliki. And this is the sequel to The Lies of the Ajongo, which I loved. I think I gave it 5 stars. I might have done. It's only a novella. It's 112 pages. In the first book, it's set in a city in the desert, and the main character has to go and find water for his mother because there's no water in the city, so he has to go out into the desert, and then he starts discovering secrets. And this one is a follow-up to that, and I think it's set like 500 years later or something. I love the sound of it, and I love the first one, so I can't wait to give this one a go. The Great Divide. This one is about the construction of the Panama Canal, and it's about the people who helped or who did build it. It's not a time or moment in history that I know anything about. I know nothing about the history of the Panama Canal, so I'm looking forward to learning a lot in this one. I love some historical fiction. I'm not sure which year it is set. I'm not sure if any of you guys know, but I can't wait to read this one. I think it sounds amazing. The Haunting of Belkwood. This is a gothic horror book. It says that it's good for fans of Yellow Jackets. I've seen like 3 episodes of Yellow Jackets, and it's a really slow show, but I imagine in book format it's probably a lot faster paced, especially because this one is only like 250 pages or something. So it says here that it's about 3 childhood friends who miraculously survive the night everyone in their suburban neighborhood turned into ghosts. That's all I need to know. That sounds great. I am looking forward to reading this one. I don't have this one on NetGalley, but I might request it. Floating Hotel, which I do have from NetGalley. This is a science fiction book, and I think my friend said that this was a bit like Becky Chambers, so that's why I added this one to the list. It's like a cozy sci-fi space opera sort of thing, and I can't wait to read it. I might read it over Christmas. So yeah, this is basically about a hotel in space, I think, and the main character was a stowaway and then became the manager slash caretaker. Yeah, I think this one sounds really good and really interesting, and because it's been compared to Becky Chambers, love the sound of that, so I'm definitely gonna pick this up. The Last Blood cover. This cover is stunning. I love it. It's being compared to These Violent Delights and Cinder. It's the first, I think, in a series, or at least it says it's the first in a 2-book debut, so maybe the author is just releasing a second kind of standalone book. It says here that it's Vietnam inspired fantasy. The main character is a blood carver and can alter human biology. That sounds amazing. I don't really want to read the whole synopsis, but because I don't really think I need to be honest. YA fantasy sounds really, really good. Where Sleeping Girls Lie. This is by the author of Ace of Spades, which I really enjoyed, and this is another mystery thriller by her. I'm not going to read the whole synopsis again because it's a thriller book, but it's about a woman or a girl who is starting her 3rd year of high school, and then a student is found dead. I've added this to the list partly because of the cover and partly because I've enjoyed Ace of Spades. The Weavers of Alamaxa. So this is the sequel to a book which I can't remember the title of. The Daughters of Izdahar, and that is a fantasy debut about people with elemental powers, and it's inspired by Egyptian history and mythology. It was a really good book. I really enjoyed it, so this is finishing off the duology. I'm looking forward to reading it. Moving into April, we have the reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. I had no idea she was releasing another book in 2024. No one has talked about this or promoted it, or I've missed all of the promotions somehow. To be fair, I haven't been on Twitter in like a year, or it feels like a year. So this one, it says it's a true crime fueled mystery thriller. So it's kind of going back to what she was doing with A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which is exciting because she did that really well. It says here that the main character has lived her whole life in the shadow of her mum's mysterious disappearance. 16 years ago, Rachel Price, Belle's mother, vanished, and the daughter, Belle, was the only witness. She has no memory of it. I imagine she's quite distraught and perhaps has PTSD if she saw her mother disappear or be killed in front of her. It also talks about films and documentaries, so I love the sound of this one. It sounds like I said, she is going back to her roots with A Good Girl's Guide to Murder sort of vibes. Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This is another romance book by her. I don't think this is in the same sort of universe as Part of Your World and Yours Truly, which is a shame because I love all those characters, but I trust Abby Jimenez to write really good characters. It says here that the main guy, Justin, has a curse. Wasn't her previous guy called Justin? Might have been Jacob. It's definitely a J name, I think. And thanks to a Reddit thread, this curse is now all over the internet. Every woman he dates goes on to find their soulmate the second that they break up. I really stumbled over that sentence, I'm sorry. And then the woman is called Emma, and she is a traveling nurse. So maybe this is set in the same universe. I don't know. I'm going to read it. I'm probably going to give it 5 stars because I love Abby Jimenez's writing. Ghost Station by S.A. Barnes. This is by the author of Dead Silence. I cannot wait to read this one. I loved Dead Silence so much. I don't think I've actually read this synopsis. It says here, a crew must try to survive on an ancient abandoned planet in this latest space horror novel. Space exploration can be lonely and isolating. Something, something, something. Pilot is gruesomely murdered. Worst nightmare. Wave of violence. Mental deterioration. Something sinister. I love the sound of this one. And yeah, I'm probably going to give this one 5 stars as well because I've loved previous books by this author. To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods. This one is another, I think, YA fantasy. It says here that the main character can pull the life right out of mortal bodies. And then there's something about an enemy prince. So if this is like enemies / rivals to lovers, I'm all here for it. That's probably why I added this in the first place, although I can't remember doing so. In May, we have The Ministry of Time, which is a time travel thriller. Because it's a thriller, I'm not going to read the whole thing. There's also something about time travel romance and a spy. Something near future. A 17th century person who can't get enough of Tinder. Don't know what that means, but I'm going to read it. And then we have Laur Olympus. Volume 6 is coming out. I don't know if Volume 7 is also coming out in 2024. Love Laur Olympus, and I'm almost caught up on the webcomic. I keep falling behind because I keep forgetting to read it weekly whenever it comes out. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on the physical copy. Lost Ark Dreaming. This says that it's Snowpiercer meets The Deep, and it's a post-climate disaster novella. Love that. Cannot wait. Off the coast of West Africa, decades after the dangerous rise of the Atlantic Ocean, the region's survivors live inside 5 partially submerged, kilometres-high towers, originally created as a playground for the wealthy. There are also those who are left for dead in the Atlantic, only to be reawakened by an ancient power. Love the sound of this one. Love some cli-fi, climate disasters, all of that good stuff. I just find it very topical. The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton. No idea what this is about, but he is an auto-buy author. I've only read one book by him, and it's the 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which I adored, and I really want to reread one day because I found it really, really clever. And then I bought his second book and didn't read it, but I also want to get my hands on this one because I trust him as an author. I think I may regret saying that, but I do trust him as an author. Goddess of the River. This is by the author of Kaikei, which again haven't read, but I do have on my shelf, so I do want to probably try to read that before I get my hands on this one. This is about a river goddess, and her doomed mortal son. So I think it's another mythology retelling. And then we're skipping June and going straight into July. First of all, we have The Sky on Fire. This one is set in a world ruled by dragons. It's by the author of the Chorus of Dragons series, but I think it's a completely separate thing. And again, I've not read the Chorus of Dragons series, but I really, really want to. I've got the first one on my shelf and I think it's going to be really good. I don't know if this is told from like a dragon's point of view or if it's someone who's being hunted by a dragon or something, but I love the cover and I think it sounds good. The Last One. This is another one being published by Red Tower Books, again, the Fourth Wing publisher, but this rating is a lot higher, and I don't know if that's because people haven't had a chance to read it yet because it's not coming out until July. But this is being marketed as The Witcher meets N.K. Jemisin, where a young woman learns the world is about to be destroyed by an evil destructive force ... herself. I don't like the look of this synopsis because it's told in first person, so I'm not going to tell you anything else about it, but it's on my list because I want to give it a go. I want to see what it's like. I do wonder if this publisher is kind of just like throwing books out there because Iron Flame was clearly quite rushed, and I'm wondering if they're trying to sort of live up to the Fourth Wing hype and try and get out as many books as they can. But I'm going to reserve judgment and read a few more books by them and see what happens. In August, we have a new book by James S.A. Corey, the authors of the Expanse series, and this is called The Mercy of Gods, which sounds kind of fantastical, but I still think this is a space opera by them. And it says here that how humanity came to this new planet is lost in the fog of history, but that history is about to end. Something about wars in space, characters being dropped in the middle of a struggle that they barely understand, a rebellion. I think this sounds really good. And like I said, I've not read too many. Did I say that? I've not read too many of the Expanse books. I've only read the first one, but I really got on with the writing style, so I'm looking forward to reading this. My camera died with just 2 more books to go, which is just typical. So we're back again. The second to last book I have is Wisteria, which is the 3rd book in the Belladonna trilogy. At least I think it's a trilogy. I don't know if there's going to be another book in the series, because this Goodreads synopsis doesn't say anything other than saying this is the best-selling Belladonna series. So maybe there is going to be another one. There's no sign of the UK cover yet, which is a shame because I really like the UK editions and not the US ones. They're terrible. Basically, Belladonna is a gothic fantasy romance, I would say, with a mystery also thrown in there. And it's about a woman or a girl who her entire family died when she was a baby. Death came for them, but death wouldn't touch this main character. So she has been passed from like distant relative to distant relative, and each one so far has died, and then she is sent to like an aunt or cousins or something, and she has to solve a mystery because it seems as though someone killed the aunt. Death as a person is kind of hanging around, shall we say. And I loved Belladonna. I think I gave it like 4.5 stars and then bumped it up to 5. At least I should have bumped up to 5 because it's really stuck with me. The second book, that was just okay, and I'm hoping this one is going to sort of bring it back, because I have high hopes for it. And then finally, for this last book of the video, I have Somewhere Beyond the Sea, which is the sequel to The House in the Cerulean Sea, and I don't know how I feel about this having a sequel, but I'm anticipating this nonetheless because I think I've only read 2 of TJ Klune's books and I've only loved one of them. That one being The House in the Cerulean Sea. But I love the characters so much that I think I'm gonna really enjoy being back with them. I'm trying to see if it mentions anything about the original characters. It does talk about Arthur and Linus, so I am thinking the magical children will still be there, and they were my favourite part of The House in the Cerulean Sea, as I'm sure they were most people's. So I am thinking that I will really enjoy this one, even if the plot didn't really need to be there, because I like the characters so much. So yeah, high hopes for this one. And with that, those are the 41, I think, because I removed one, books that I am most anticipating for 2024. Obviously, there may be more. If S.A. Chakraborty was going to release a book in 2024, then that one would have been on here, but she has said that the sequel to The Adventures of Mina Al-Sarafi won't be out until 2025, but maybe she'll surprise us. There's also a new Brandon Sanderson coming at the end of the year, but I haven't caught up with that series yet, so I'm not putting it on this list. But as always, I will be doing monthly new releases videos at the start of every month, so as new books get added, then I will obviously talk about them then, and then maybe I'll do like a follow-up video to this one halfway through the year and see how that goes. Let me know in the comments below which books you're most anticipating, and thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and I'll speak to you all in the next one. Bye!